We always get a lot of questions about what life is like in Hong Kong, what's it like to teach in Hong Kong, so today we're going to do a video all about Hong Kong.
We've been working in Hong Kong as teachers for 2 years now. We know a little bit about teaching in Hong Kong. I feel confident now that I can tell people like how we got the jobs, why we got the jobs, a little bit about what teaching is like in Hong Kong. We're going to share that knowledge with you guys today.
We're going to put up a map of Hong Kong so we can kind of show you the different areas. So Hong Kong is a peninsula on the bottom of, on the south of China, and there are lots of islands dotted around underneath. So the islands dotted around, there are not many schools really. Most of the schools are on the island or on Kowloon's side, which is on the peninsula. But there are 1 or 2 schools dotted around in the northern New Territories, which are all almost on the border of Shenzhen heading into China. I think just looking at an OS map, you'll see that Hong Kong is so lush and so green. There's lots of mountainous regions, and then if you look at the island, it's very much more urban.
The main Hong Kong island probably only takes about an hour from one side to the other if you're travelling on the MTR, which is like the main form of transport, the underground tram. Also, it's really fortunate in Hong Kong that if you were to get a job pretty much anywhere on the map that we've highlighted here, you probably will be able to travel quite easily to said area because the bus links are really good, the transport's really good, the underground MTR can get you places really quickly. So when you are applying for schools, you're probably good to apply anywhere in this area. In international schools, it is very common to not teach every single subject. For example, in my school, and I think maybe Ryan's school as well, the music, art, PE and library and Chinese lessons are all taught by different teachers.
Just to briefly show how that might work, so I teach 7 periods a day. So 7 45-minute blocks, which sounds quite a lot, because I think in the UK you tend to just go in and you think, right, mornings I'm going to do maths, English and reading, and then in the afternoon we'll do theme, and you just kind of block it out like that in your head that the theme will be whatever it takes. It might be some art, it might be some history, and you'll just see how long it goes, or you'll try and squeeze in as much as you can. In Hong Kong, so out of those 7 periods, I always guaranteed 1 or 2 frees a day.
Yeah.
Some days it might be that you get 3 or 4. Atmosphere and ethos is like shifted. It's like, well, I've got 4 frees on Thursday, so I'll do all my planning on Thursday.
Yep.
And it does free you up a lot.
A question that we get asked a lot about Hong Kong is about expat communities, like, will I meet people, will I have friends here? It's quite common when you meet a teacher to find out that they actually already know someone that you know from a different school. It might not seem that way for the first couple of months, but I can guarantee that after a while, it's like a jigsaw will start to connect. You will find that there are lots of people from home that work out here. For example, if you are Irish, there's a big Irish community, there's a Gaelic football club, and no matter who you want to meet or who you want to socialise with, there's probably a community out there for you. If you go online, there's lots of different groups that you can check out too, and you can connect with people from home. But of course, it's good to just meet people from different countries as well, and, you know, get to know people from all over the world. Next thing we're going to talk about is the fact that a lot of people ask me, are all the children in your class Chinese? Do they speak English as a second language? Are there lots of international school children and expat children from around the world? In my class right now, I have children from Hong Kong, China, Korea, Japan, India. I guess most of them are probably from Hong Kong. I think if I look at my percentages, they are, but because it's an international school, you do get children from all around the world in your class.
And how many kids do you get in your class?
I have 18 students in my class this year. I'd say the average around Hong Kong is probably around 18 to 24.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I'm just laughing because we convinced our friend to move here and she has a class of 30.
Yeah, some schools have 30. Like in the UK, it's quite normal to have 30. So It's the same in Hong Kong. There's some schools with 30 in a class. It seems as though it's more common to have 18 to 24, in my opinion, and from the research that I've done in preparation for this.
Yeah, so I have 24 in my class. Again, we're a huge mix, a lot of Americans, British and Australians. So people who might speak English as their first language, but then we have a lot of people from Japan, Korea, mainland China as well.
Yep.
So just a really big mix. I think it is international in the sense that once you get to know your kids, you get to know their family background. They might have parents from different countries, they might have different passports, they might have a lot of international travel in their background, but they might have stayed in Hong Kong, or you might think, wow, this kid is a Hong Konger, but then you find out that they've spent the last 4 years in a different country. So it's a very international mindset. So I think everyone's international in a lot of different ways.
I don't find there's a particular language barrier. It's you might be teaching English as a second language, so you need to be very visual with your teaching. However, I do not find that there is a barrier. I think there's this kind of impression that people have of teaching abroad, like you're surrounded by children that don't speak much English, and from what I've gathered and from what I've talked to other people about, most of the children are able to communicate in English up to a standard that they can like understand your teaching and understand your lesson. Maybe if you teach younger years it might be a little bit trickier, but it's not like a barrier. Like, people have this impression that I need to learn Chinese or I have to speak Chinese, but that's not the case.
We maybe have the benefit that we teach older children, so if they're in year 3 or in year 5, they've generally come through the school and they've learned a lot of English as they've moved through the school and socialised. So I think we're in a better position than those people who are perhaps in year 1s and year 2s, who have children who have maybe missed a few years because they've been travelling around, or they're new to English and things like that. So it can have a big more impact on those. But I think it's just worth noting that there's not just someone who's EAL because they only speak Chinese and now suddenly they're in English school. It can be very much that they might have one parent who speaks English, they don't speak much English at home, or maybe they don't socialise too much with English speaking children outside of school. So everyone's on their own journeys really. So generally when we get them in year 3 and 5, they've already had at least 3 years of English teaching, so they generally mask their EAL quite well, or they've mastered English so well that it's not so
more
noticeable.
Natural. When people ask me, like, is it a barrier, like, is it a reason why I shouldn't move to Hong Kong because I don't have another language? Like, you don't have to have one. You can speak English as your first language and your only language, like we both do. Take that into consideration when you are applying. Next thing we're going to talk about is how much you get paid to work in Hong Kong. I am going to talk in Hong Kong dollars because that's more comfortable for me right now, but just be aware that the conversion from Hong Kong to UK is pretty much divided by 10. So for example, 34,000 Hong Kong dollars would be £3,400. It's not a perfect conversion, but hopefully it will give you an understanding so when I talk you know exactly where I'm heading with this. I would say for a smaller international school, we'll probably offer you approximately, let's say, 28 to 35,000 Hong Kong dollars per month. That might seem like quite a lot more than you get paid in the UK, which is fantastic if you are looking for a pay incentive for moving abroad as well. However, they may not offer things like bonuses and flights, so the bigger schools, the more established schools may be more likely to do that for you. I would say as a mid-ground wage, if you were getting a job in a more established international school, I would say based on, let's say, 2 to 3 years experience, you're looking at probably 38 to 45,000 Hong Kong a month, and that is inclusive of an accommodation allowance as well, although some schools may offer up to 50,000 plus, so that is quite a lot more than you would get in the UK. These are guideline figures. I have thrown up some websites that have some more information about pay and what you would get paid in an international school in Hong Kong here to help me out. But as a guideline, and having spoken to quite a few people about it prior to this video, I think that's an approximate of what you would be looking at.
So Katie's just talked about the wage, and the salary increase from UK to Hong Kong is incredibly high. But I would say as well that, so I'm just going through this at the moment, so things like housing prices and rental prices in Hong Kong, and particularly on the island, are really high. In Manchester I was paying for about £600 for my monthly rent, and bear in mind that in Hong Kong for a single bed you're looking at £2,000 per month. Things like food can be quite expensive. It's hard to go out for a meal that's less than £50.
A one-bed flat on the main Hong Kong island, anything from around 18 to 28,000 Hong Kong a month. So it does eat into your wage quite a lot. You might want to consider sharing with someone, or you might want to consider a smaller place, perhaps with a walk up a couple of floors, or in an older building, just to bring your costs down. It's quite hard to sum up in one small video, but it is way more expensive than the UK.
It is more expensive, but I think it's super livable and it's achievable. But I think it's just about what mindset you're coming into Hong Kong with. If you're looking to travel, it's a great jumping off point. If you're looking to save money, you can do that, but you might need to save just as you would back home and cut back a little bit.
We're also going to talk a bit about the curriculum that you might find you are teaching in Hong Kong. I'm teaching a curriculum called the PYP IB curriculum, and I did not teach this in the UK. So I get a lot of people messaging me saying, do I need to know a lot about the IB curriculum in order to get a job in Hong Kong? And I keep telling them, no, don't worry. Like, it's good to have experience. It's good to know a little bit before you apply. Schools will provide training on this. They'll help you to understand the curriculum. And on the other hand, Ryan still teaches the British curriculum in Hong Kong.
Yeah, so we're pretty much exactly the same, so that's a really benefit. It doesn't take much transition. I think the differences are things like the timetable, so the curriculum staying the same is quite a nice treat.
Does it ever feel as though you've got a school from the UK and just put it in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're selling. We're selling the fact that we are a British school and we've got British values. So that's kind of our selling point, which we deal with our marketing. But then the cast of kids and the teachers are very international as well. Okay, so our final point is how and when do we start applying?
We've done a video all about how to get a teaching job abroad. I've flashed that up on the screen right now. We would just say get your application in as quick as possible. If you are planning on moving to Hong Kong, don't hang around and think there'll be a job last minute. There might be, and I've heard of teachers get jobs just before starting or just before moving out here, but there is a big portal that opens up for jobs in Hong Kong quite early on in the year. Try to get an application sent out there. Try to get it done as soon as you possibly can.
So in terms of dates, you need to be thinking now, ready to apply in November, December. Job interviews tend to come up in January and February. You'll get your positions sorted. There are things that come later. There's another round of interviews around Easter time. So they are the dates, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes quick.
I was waiting for the next
You
bit.
definitely need to be thinking like a year in advance. And if you're ready now to think about moving, then you'll be ready to apply. But if you're still thinking about where you're going to be next year, then maybe it's not the right time.
And if you have any questions about moving to Hong Kong or getting a job teaching in Hong Kong, be sure to post them down in the comments box. We will try and help you out. We'll share our experience in more depth with you.
Don't forget to subscribe. It really helps us out as a channel.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.